Hello, good evening. Wonderful, thank you. Just unmute yourselves just now. It's fine. Just so we can see if I can hear you. So Thomas, good evening to you.
I can hear you. Hello, how are you?
Wonderful. Great to see you. Just waiting on everyone else coming in. Thank you very much. Christine, I see you. Can you hear me okay? Okay, you're on mute. You can just unmute if you want just now, just to say hello. And I see Joe Cass here, so hello to you.
Hi.
Hi, great to have you. And Tassim is here as well, so great. Thank you for coming in. So I'm just going to give a few minutes to NEP. You know, it's only 1 minute past the 7 o'clock, so I'll give others a chance to come in. Did you all get, I'm really sorry about the mix-up, did you get my corrected emails regarding the time? You all received emails, it's all working, the system? Okay, so that's wonderful. So I really appreciate this, you coming. So I'm going to give it a couple of minutes and then we kind of get started. Just depending, even though I said it's going to kind of stretch over 2 hours, I don't think if we're in quite an intimate group that we'll probably need that long, although I'm making myself available if you need to. I just don't want, I'm tempted to start, but I just don't want to start repeating myself if somebody's a couple of minutes late, so just please bear with me.
How have you been then, Gov?
So yeah, I'm all right, thanks. And Thomas is part of our charity. He's on the executive steering group, so you'll get to know a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But I've been fine, very busy. It's incredibly busy at the moment, and yeah, just trying to do what I can do.
That's all we can do at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I'm still, you know, it's a year of lockdown, still in the same four walls as I was this time last year, so nothing's changed much. I just sit in a different chair now and then just to kind of change the view. Yeah. Apart from that, my daily walks and my work. That's kind of what's holding me up at the moment. What about yourself, Thomas?
My general phrase to people is I'm plodding on at the moment.
Okay. All right.
It's just kind of Groundhog Day and just, yeah.
And how are you guys, Christine, Tassim, Joe? How's the year been for you guys?
Oh, coping. We have to.
Yeah. What backgrounds? Since it's just us at the moment, so just give me an idea. What backgrounds are you from? Are you?
I'm a trainee counsellor, so I've had quite a productive year, I think.
Yeah, wow, what a year to become a trainee counsellor. Oh my goodness. You did.
I timed that very well.
You timed it very well. Oh my goodness, you couldn't get better than that. And you're going to be used quite a lot. That's yeah. Did you get a placement and things like that yet, or you're not?
I have.
Yeah.
No, I have. I've got 2. Actually, now I've got 3. Stupidly, not realizing that I have to write about them all now in my assignment.
Right.
So I'm like, why have I shot myself in the foot?
That's the downside.
So not good.
So what kind of placements have you got then?
I've got 2 in schools and 1 with domestic abuse.
All right, brilliant.
I'm doing my level 3 at the moment.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
How are you finding it? Level 3 is such a massive growth experience.
Yeah. But I'm kind of just starting to get onto that journey of thinking of placements and all that kind of stuff. So, yes.
It is good. It's good.
And Joe, what's your background?
Yeah, I'm a qualified counsellor, qualified 4 years ago. So I've got, I did a PG dip up at University of Cumbria. So I'm based sort of just north of Blackpool.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How's that going for you this year specifically?
Yeah. I mean, I've been busy, and in many ways, I'm, really grateful that I can work with so many people being furloughed or, in various different positions. So yeah, but definitely busier than usual. Yeah. So I worked 3 days for an occupational health company. And then I've got private practice and a volunteer as well at a local hospice, as a volunteer counsellor.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done. And Christy?
Hi, I'm a state registered nurse, and I'm doing my revalidation. And my manager asked me to do one on COVID and the effects. We are doing lateral testing 3 times a week, and the staff and the carers and everything. And so I'm writing all about the effects it's having on me, and I haven't done the mental health side of it. So I was hoping this might help me with that.
Wonderful. I missed the very beginning. What you said? Something nurse?
I'm a state registered nurse.
State registered nurse. Okay. Yeah. And where are you practicing at the moment?
I work in a private nursing home.
Wonderful. So this is you're definitely in the right place tonight. I'll tell you that. This is geared for people, specifically nursing homes and hospitals. And okay, I may as well just kind of crack on, and if anyone comes in, they'll come in later. So good evening to everybody. I really appreciate you coming in. I just want to make a couple of kind of housekeeping things, just so we know, make things clear, because I think, I'm just inundated. Some of the stuff I'm writing in 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning, so that's why I've made a couple of mistakes here and there with times and so on. So, but basically, what these 4 seminars, workshops, talks, whatever you want to call it, it's on the 4th Thursday of the coming month. So that's this month and the following 3 months. Is basically information Zooms, if you like, about the program that we want to launch regarding CovidAID. And what I'm trying to do is, first of all, to give you some value, but to be completely open, I'm trying to recruit you guys to help get this program out to as many people as possible. That's the idea. Just so you know, COVID this tonight and the next 3 sessions, and CovidAID in general, has an interesting angle, because it's not about professionals learning these protocols in order to give somebody else, which is usually what you learn stuff, right? We're all in some sort of caring profession here. And usually you go to workshops and seminars and courses, and you learn skills and you learn stuff, and then you go out and you give it to your patients or your clients or wherever. So this is not that, okay? This is something completely different, and this is to learn for yourselves. Okay, this is about taking care of you, because very few out there, if any, are doing that. And we have found, and the little research that there is, but there is a little bit in the last year, is that things are not looking good for people in the helping professions, carers, nurses, doctors, therapists, policemen, firemen, whatever you want to call it. All these people that are on the coalface of dealing with this pandemic. And so Heads Up CIO, which is the charity that's doing this, our space in interventions is the acute space. It's not long-term counselling. There's plenty organisations that are out there that do long-term counselling, which is basically from a month upwards. Okay, so PTSD and stuff starts at a month upwards officially, right? Nobody gets counselling after a month. Just doesn't work. So maybe after 3 years, they might get a little bit of counselling if they're lucky. But our space is not that. Our space is before that. So our space is from second 0 until a month. So the quicker that we can intervene, the better. And up until now, our main focus has been on man-made or natural disasters. So anything from Grenfell Tower fire, Manchester Arena bombing, things like that, where we try to intervene as quickly as possible. So I don't know if you know anything about our charity. So I'm going to just run a very quick couple of minute video. By the way, I detest PowerPoints and share screen stuff. I don't know about you guys. I've been Zooming for a year now, almost nonstop. And the worst thing that can happen to me is I get a shared screen PowerPoint in my face and I don't see anybody. So and I'm talking about as when I'm a participant or a presenter, it's the same. So I kind of done away with all that. But there's a couple of things that I want to show you. So it's not a PowerPoint, it's just that I'm going to run a little video. So if everything is all right, I'll just kind of see if I can share my screen just for this. Okay, so you can all see that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Just so you know, tonight is not just about me talking. I would never do a meeting like this without giving you some experiential value. So we'll do some stuff. It's not the full protocol or anything like that. It is obviously connected, but I will give you some skills for you to have tonight and take away, and so that at least we can have a decent experience together. So I'll run this. It's 4 minutes, 58 seconds, I see, and then we'll come back and have a little talk.
Christian Wakefoot.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I join with members from across the House in sending my deepest of condolences to each and every one of the individuals who's tragically passed away as a result of COVID. However, during this extremely difficult time, I have nothing but admiration for the army of volunteers working tirelessly in my constituency and across the country. Will the Prime Minister join me in thanking organisations like the Fed, Jewish Volunteering Network, Heads Up and Porch Boxers, along with all those who've done so much to protect the vulnerable and the needy in Prestwich, Radcliffe and Whitefield?
Mr. Speaker, I will indeed join my honourable friend in paying tribute to those volunteers in his constituency. They join a huge constellation of shining points of light across our country. It's been one of the most extraordinary things, one of the consolations, one of the few consolations of this crisis has been the upsurge, Madam Deputy Speaker, there has been in volunteering.
My dear friend Dov, I was very honored to be invited after the event in the arena to provide some help in training professional teams. I was very happy and glad to work with you and your team, and to feel that we've just contributed even a little bit to this huge disaster. I was amazed, actually, to see the resiliency of the people around. I was amazed to see how fast and how rapid the immediate recovery was. I'm sure that many scars have been left because of this event, but on the other hand, I'm so happy that as far as the population could, things went back to normal, and people just carried on with their life. I wish everybody the very, very best, and peace and safe, and take care because of this COVID-19 event, which I really do hope will end soon, and we should all go back to our regular life. Again, thank you so much, and my best regards, Moshe.
Radio. On your smart speaker, mobile, and your radio. Across Manchester. This is Hits Radio.
Children could apparently be in line for coronavirus vaccinations from August. It's being reported that's a potential plan to give the population maximum immunity from COVID-19, but ministers are waiting for the results of clinical trials first. Boris Johnson's facing questions from senior MPs later about his handling of the pandemic after apparently joking that greed is behind the success of the UK's vaccination programme. Meanwhile, health leaders say staff need protecting and may need some decompression time after the worst of the coronavirus crisis is over.
I have absolutely no doubt that this is going to be a crisis. We need to prepare for it.
The NHS Confederation says significant numbers are struggling with things like depression and anxiety. Benyaacov-Kurtzman is from Greater Manchester Trauma Support Charity, heads up CIO. That teaches organisations how to better support staff.
What this does is not about signposting, it's about helping them do something on the spot while you're in the middle of the shift, or at any time in your life that you're feeling that distress.
Okay, so a little bit of promotion now, but the idea is just to give you in a couple of minutes or so what the organization is that you're in tonight listening to me. I'm going to put in the chat, just to kind of save time, about myself so that you know who I am. Just a second. I'll get back to the chat. Just to save time. But I'm basically a psychotherapist, an EMDR practitioner. My specialty is anxiety and trauma, in particular acute trauma. Now, the idea is that what we found in research is that there is going, just like you heard in the radio interview, a few sound bites, but in the coming year, at least, there's going to be an acute suffering from people that are on the coalface. I predict that it's going to result in a lot of sick workers, and possibly even a shortage of staff. As you heard in the radio news bulletin, the British Medical Association and the NHS are already worried about depression, anxiety in their staff. And unfortunately, we know that suicide has been on the rise over the last few years, and particularly in these professions, nurses. And so we have to prepare, we have to really buckle down and do something about it, unless we want to suffer the consequences. And in my opinion, there is something that we can do. The idea of CovidAID is to provide first aid, is to provide something that the staff can do when they're becoming overwhelmed. And a lot of reports are coming in, especially those who are dealing with a lot of death or severe suffering that has been in amounts that have not really been known before, at least not in the recent history. And just dealing with that day after day after day, and now it's been over a year now. And we're not quite sure yet when COVID is over, and I'm talking about from the emergency situation. Of course, the government are talking about sometime towards the end of June, but if you're in touch daily, or there's already hints that it might not be. There's third wave in Europe just now. There's legislation going through Parliament to extend the powers even beyond these dates, to even put it into some of these laws into permanent law. So those who at least may have a little bit more information than us seem to be preparing for something that's a little bit longer than just what we're experiencing at the moment. My concern, though, are those who are working extraordinarily long shifts without the proper self-care or care of the organizations. There's a lot of talk about mental health, there's a lot of billions of pounds going into it. But when I speak with those who are doing the night shifts or the day shifts, whatever, I'm getting a lot of feedback back from them that the breaks are not really breaks, the lunch breaks are not really lunch breaks, they're not eating right because they're stuffing their faces with anything that they can get. So their nutrition is not good. They are also going through a lot of fear and suffering from just taking care of their patients, but also from themselves, whether they'll get infected or they'll infect others. And even though the vaccines are coming in, some people are taking vaccines, some people aren't, some people can't. And that also increases tension. You know, kids are going back to school. The infection is still around, and there's not enough PPE. There is PPE. I don't want to get into any. Heads Up is not a political organization in any way at all. We're only interested in serving our service users, but we have to look at also have not be blind. We have to look at what's going on in the field in order to see what needs to be done. And a lot of the time, the staff are left confused. So there might be, clear laws as in you should wear PPE, you should do this and do that, but there is so much differential between place to place, what PPE means, what kind of masks do you wear, what other, do you wear gloves, you don't wear gloves, you have aprons, you don't have aprons. There's so much unclarity of the whole thing that also increases anxiety and fear. And in turn, that will feed depression or feed other mental health or mental well-being issues. And of course, there's all the other kind of periphery to all this, which is also the whole argument of rights and freedoms and conspiracy theories and all sorts of things that are going on that are just increasing also confusion. People are not quite sure what's true, what's not true, what's fake news, what's not fake news. Not quite sure if the government know what they're doing and not know what they're doing, because there's, 1 minute they're talking like this, 1 minute they're talking like that. All of that uncertainty, wherever you are in that stratosphere of understanding what's going on, all of that uncertainty feeds into a human being's well-being, because uncertainty is a frightening situation to be in.
Golf?
Yeah.
We were talking about the inoculation tool.
Nope.
Okay.
We're talking about CovidAID, which is will be a psychological and body well-being reaction to what's going on in the body.
Oh, no, the psychological inoculation, it was part of the training that I did with you.
Yes,
and that was about bringing it into the now and the present.
Yes, there will be that included in the protocol. But absolutely.
So the reason I kind of mentioned that was if there's a lot of confusion and people don't know what's right and what's wrong and what's real and not real, that's adding to that kind of trauma.
Yeah.
Because you can't ground them, because you've got nothing to ground them to.
Exactly. That's one of the problems when you're working, and it's a problem for the whole population, but I'm specifically zooming in on those who are in the helping professions, like everyone here, but are working on the cold face. So they're working with a lot of extra, right? They're seeing really horrible things, and they have their own personal fears of between themselves and their families and friends and all that we all suffer from. But they have extra, because every time a nurse or a doctor goes home from hospital, and there is such things as hospital-infected COVID. In other words, a patient can be infected from COVID already. He arrived in hospital without it, and he got infected inside, right? So it's not like, so that's an even more scary thing, because it's in your workplace, right? And I know from the NHS training that I do, a department in London, for instance, a lot of them were getting it from somewhere in the building, in their own workplace, and people were dying off, and including staff. And that is, we're talking about multiple traumas happening at one time. Whereas if it was just a normal peacetime and a work colleague died, that would be traumatic enough. And if they committed suicide, even more. But when your patients are dying and your friends and staff are dying and families are dying and all this is going on and you've got to still carry on working, that's the big thing, because you've got to hold yourself, right? Because those of us here are in the caring professions, you'll understand what I'm saying is that we are almost over-carers, right? We neglect ourselves, we over-care. We see the responsibility of the calling that we've all had to get into this, right? Tassine has already mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that she signed up for three placements. I mean, like, it's mad, right? I mean, it's madness, okay? So, and that's what we do. And the more pressure that comes on, the more that we get into it, and the more that we get into it. And the biggest neglect is ourselves, and I include me, okay? It's our biggest neglect. And so when somebody is under pressure and it's a national emergency and they have to go out, they want an hour lunch break or a half an hour lunch break, and the buzzers are going off and people are running around, and it's very easy for them just to give it up. Or eat a sandwich as the kind of, I don't know what, stuffing it down, or a cake, or the stuff that's arriving in hospitals and care homes and all sorts of, cakes and biscuits and sweets and everything just to keep them going at night. And
sorry,
yeah,
can I just interrupt?
Yeah, for sure.
Working in the care home, within 2 weeks we lost 16 to COVID. I worked on nights and I lost 10 over a period of 8 nights working. I lost 10 residents. We also had staff then who had it. And due to me being the one that was looking after all the COVID residents, I too had COVID last beginning of April. My residents all died between March and April, within 2 weeks. So you're right about not eating. We didn't have no staff. People were scared. People were shielding. They don't do furlough in nursing homes, because they say you have a job to come back to when you finish being sick. So you're not furloughed. So when you're off sick, you get shielded and you just get sick pay. So the staff in the care homes, separate from the NHS, were living on $350 a month sick pay.
Wow.
So thank you for sharing that, Christy. You just embodied in a few sentences exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm really pleased that you're here with us. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. It really is awful. So our proposal, you know what? I'm going to stop here for a second before I go on to the proposal, because just at that point, just tuning into you, Christine, for just now, I'm going to invite you to do a very simple exercise, but a simple exercise that has a lot underneath. So I don't know if you've heard of the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
So the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve coming out of our brain into our body. Yeah. And the interesting thing about that nerve is nerves usually go from A to B. They're like wires, basically, communication wires. And the interesting thing about this nerve is it has one point of where it leaves, but it has a multiple destinations. And these destinations are our facial muscles in our throat, in our inner ear, in our heart, lungs, and our visceral organs down below. And it's a two-way nerve, so it gets information from the body up to the brain and passes information from the brain down to the body. And if you think about it, all these destinations of the vagus nerve is connected to fight, flight, freeze system. Okay, so that's why our voice goes really high pitched if we're really scared, or our facial muscles change, our ears go into overdrive listening for danger, heart rate goes up, lungs breathe to get more oxygen into your body for fight and flight, and it close off the digestion system and so on. And there's something called the vagus brake. So the vagal brake is that when we get into a fear or overwhelming situation, because of things like Christine has experienced, and when that's happening again and again and again, some people can react to it really badly, and in the middle of shift, they can't leave, right? And so this is just one exercise that you can do, because once we strengthen that vagal toning, that vagal brake, it can bring us down. So it will lower our heart rate, lower our blood pressure, lower our breathing, hyper breathing, bring us into a much more safer zone and social engagement. Because when we're under serious threat, if you like, our brain shuts us down and we feel extremely lonely. We feel on our own. We kind of almost get dissociated from our surroundings. And when we strengthen the vagal nerve, it does the opposite. So it opens us up, gives us that social engagement, and affects our physiology, just like I explained. And it's done extremely easily. And this is all scientifically based. I've got a friend who works in psycho, he's a professor in psycho ontology. I'd never heard of psycho-ontology until I met him. And it's about basically the psychological effects on cancer. And vagal breathing is involved in that as well. And so the way I explain it is this. It's a breathing exercise, and I will demonstrate it with 4 breaths. And 4 to 10 breaths is about enough to already experience something. And I'm not going to influence you, because I'm going to ask you afterwards what your experience was. But it's very simple to learn, and I personally do it as a daily routine between 1 and 3 times a day when I'm doing it for myself. So that includes the weekends. But when I'm working, because I teach everybody that I meet to do this, and I do it along with them. So I'm doing it actually multiple times. So I would imagine I've got like, you know, a world heavyweight boxing vagal nerve muscle, but so it goes like this. Now, in order, it's really 3 seconds in, 2 seconds you hold in your breath, and 5 seconds out. But sometimes people forget all the numbers. So a nice way of remembering this is that when we're taking the in-breath for the count of 3, that we kind of imagine the breath coming in, I'll put it like that, coming in our fingertips and up to the top of our head. So that's the short in-breath, if you like. This is just to help remember it. If you don't have to remember it like that. You can just count to 3. And then we're going to hold the breath in our lungs for the count of 2. And then as we breathe out very slowly, much slower than we breathe in, it's coming from the top of our head, down our body, down through our legs, and out our toes. So that's the long, slow out breath. Okay? Now, when we're breathing in, and the reason why they were breathing in the short breath is because breathing in ups the sympathetic system. Okay, our heart rate raises when we breathe in. We're turning on the sympathetic system. When we're breathing out in this particular slow way, we're going to activate the parasympathetic system. Okay, so that's important to know if you're in the profession, right? So we don't want to be breathing in too quickly either, because we don't want to put our body into fight and flight. The other thing is, when we're breathing in, I want you to breathe in through your nose as if you were smelling a beautiful flower, a rose or something. Okay, nice deep breath. Breathing with our tummies. Do you all know how to breathe with your tummies? So in other words, abdominal breathing is your abdomen comes out as you're breathing in. You push it out with your muscles, right? So if you were lying on your back, I did practice this at the beginning. You put a book on your tummy and just push it up and down like that, okay? So once you learn how to do that, then when you breathe in, you push your tummy out, and that creates a kind of a vacuum, right? And allows you to fill your lungs completely. When people breathe with their chests, then they're only getting about 50% volume of using their lungs, right? So when we're breathing in slowly for 3, pushing our tummy out. When we're breathing out through our nose, it's as if we're breathing out through a straw. So kind of creating a little bit of pressure there. And this is the whole active ingredient of the whole exercise. So we're only breathing in order to be able to breathe out, right? So when we're breathing out with that pressure and pursed lips, as if you're breathing through a straw, like even making a noise, the back pressure to the throat is what's activating the vagal nerve, right? So that's when you're actually practicing. So it's a bit like lifting weights, but for this vagal nerve, right? And just imagine it's going right down your legs and out, or just count to the count of 5. Okay. What I usually do when I'm showing somebody is just to, that would be in, that would be hold, and that would be out. But when you're on your own, sometimes you don't remember all that, so you can just remember breathing in up to here, hold it for 2, and out 5 through your toes. So let's try it now. I'll invite you to try it. It's really important to put both feet on the ground. And again, I'm teaching you this because I would teach you anyway, but if somebody's on shift, this is something you can do even while you're still in wherever it is, your workplace, the ward, whatever. Or if somebody's on a break, very easy to do. Or you know what? You can even just step out for what's going to take a minute or less just to do this. It will already have an effect. Even if we stop now and that was all the protocol, it would already have an amazing effect, although the protocol will have even more than this. So I put my hand in my tummy just to feel it going up and down. So we'll do feet on the floor, push your feet into the floor, feel that grounded feeling. Okay, excellent. If anyone has the opportunity to do it without shoes on or bare feet, even better. But not always that is possible. So let's try it. So breathing in. Hold it. And out through the mouth, through the straw. Excellent. So breathing in for the count of 3. Breathing in. Now, 1, 2, 3. Through the nose, holding it in the lungs and out through the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent. So we'll do it together. Breathing in. Really deep breath. Hold it and slowly out through the straw. Perfect. One more time. Breathing in. Hold it and breathing out through the straw. When you're breathing out, push your tummy right in to get all that oxygen out. All right. That's just a little practice. What was that? Anyone want to share what that experience was like? What was it like doing that kind of breathing? What did you experience, if anything?
Concentration, distraction, and calming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else?
Towards the end of that last one, I kind of start to have a bit of a tingling feeling in my head.
Thank you. I'll say a couple of things about that in a minute. What did you experience, Tassim?
Calming as well. I thought it was very calming. And grounding. It makes you feel quite grounded.
Yeah. Joe?
Yeah, I think physically my head feels lighter afterwards.
Okay, wonderful. Anyone smoke cigarettes here? No, good. Those who smoke cigarettes, a lot of the effect, apart from the nicotine thing, which has an effect, but a massive part of the effect of cigarettes is just what you've done, is to introduce into the body more oxygen, quite simply.
Okay.
And that gives us that kind of lightheaded, the hit, like a bit of lightheadedness. It actually helps us to feel calmer because we're nourishing everything with oxygen, but also with that particular breathing, which is very similar if you think about it to, although they do it through the mouth, you take a long drag, right? That's what you would do. So no, I'm not asking you to start smoking, but this is the healthy way to do it. But also because you are doing this particular type of breathing, as I said, you're affecting the vagal nerve, and that will settle your blood pressure down, bring your heart rate down, bring you out of that fight and flight that we're kind of all in a lot of the time as it happens. Tassim, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, would that help someone who's just given up smoking or something and they're craving a cigarette? Would that help them then?
Absolutely, it would. I spent many years, I haven't done it for a while now, actually helping people to stop smoking.
Oh.
And it does help.
Brilliant.
It helps in many cases. I do it without connection to anything because we're always involved with stuff going on in our lives. And this really, really has an amazing effect. I'm going to throw in a couple of other things that you can do. If you've got partners, teaching your partner to do this and looking into each other's eyes while you're doing it is extraordinarily powerful. Not because obviously looking to someone's eyes is powerful, but the reason why it's powerful, I'm talking about scientific stuff, not romantic stuff, is that vagal breathing, when it affects the vagal nerve, as I said, opens up that social engagement system, relaxes the muscles in the face becomes softer, and we read constantly non-verbal communication of each other all the time. And so when you're looking in to your partner's eyes and noticing first of all, you're breathing at the same time and noticing the changes that go on. There are non-verbal signals that are saying, I'm in a safer place, I'm allowing something into my life, and I'm a softer person. And I'll let you discover what happens after that. Yeah,
so
that's it.
no, sorry. So is there a number of minutes that you're holding for? I mean, breathing in for, holding, and then breathing out for?
Yeah, so the count is 3 seconds, the count of 3, right?
3, okay.
1, 2, 3 in, 1, 2 holding in the lungs, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the out breath. And the reason is the out breath should be much slower than the in breath. It's almost double. And the reason for that is the signals that it's giving the brain. So the quicker breath in puts the brain into sympathetic mode, into the emergency mode. Heart rate goes up. The slower double-sized breath on the outside will trigger off the parasympathetic system and bring the body down into a more relaxed kind of rest and digest, as they say, state. Right. So if I just taught you that and that was it, you would do pretty well just knowing that and practicing it on yourself. So the proposal that we want to do is we want to have kind of what's called a 2-tier approach, where we will first of all recruit trainers. So we want to recruit a bank of CovidAID trainers and train them first. Because the idea is to reach as many people as possible. So we would want trainers from different care homes, different settings, whether it's hospitals or care homes or police departments or fire departments or organizational places where they're dealing at what I call the cold face of the pandemic. Okay. Now, obviously, this is good for everybody, but if we want to, as a charity, reach as many people as possible, then rather than teaching individuals, we want to teach people that have access to larger amounts of people or are willing to go and, you don't always have to work there, but they would be willing to approach different organizations and say, look, if I get trained in this, would you allow me to train your staff? Okay, so that's the idea. So what the first tier is that we would have the trainers trained. And the trainers that we want are people that are experienced in some sort of counseling. Okay, so we don't want, not that there's anything wrong with it, but we don't want people that are out of the therapy kind of world, because we want them to have that therapeutic relationship with the people that they're teaching. Okay, this is not therapy. You don't have to be a therapist, but we particularly want the population of people that are in therapy or nursing or the medical world, because they have that particular caring element to the people that they'll be training. All right, because this is about really just like it's important for the vagal nerve to have that social engagement system. Part of what we want to do in the protocol is what we're doing right now. It's not just learning the skills, but we want to build a community in that people will be able to come in regularly to a community like this and talk about their experiences, just like Christine did there. And we will be able to support that. So there'll be a certain peer-to-peer element in addition to that kind of emergency protocol. We will be able to build up, even nationally, a place where they can come and be understood and share their experiences. And the more that grows, the more services we'll be able to offer in addition to the protocol. So we might be able to bring in nutritionists, we might be able to bring in, physical fitness people, we might be able to bring in all sorts of things. That's the wonder of Zoom and things like that at the moment, is that we'll be able to reach a lot of people and offer them extra services. Now, the training of the trainers, we are not charging for that. It's not like we're a course where you'd have to pay, right? Well, not in money. What you do need to do is commit to training at least 3 different organizations or places or sets of training, right? We're not asking you to be doing this for the rest of your life, but we would ask in return for us training whoever's getting trained to come with us and say, look, I've got 3 care homes that I could change, or I've got 3 wards in a hospital, or I've got a fire station, or I've got whatever, and that would be your ticket to getting trained for this. And also, we wouldn't leave you on your own. We would come, we would supervise you, we would give you everything you need. The training is not going to be that long because we don't want to, burden people. It's not going to be a, massive course or anything like that. So basically, I think we're talking about, for the trainers, it's going to be 2 or 3 hour-and-a-half kind of sessions. So we're talking about 3 to 4.5 hours altogether. It's not going to be very long. And we want each trainer to, I think it's 75. We'll know the exact thing, but I think it's like 75 people each. So that's their number. Training 7. So if they train 3 places at 25 people a go, then that's, obviously we're not going to say no if somebody wants to train more people than that, right? But that's our kind of saying, we're going to give you some free training with the possibility of having CPD certificates as well. But we want you to, commit to something, and that is at least training 75 people, and 3 sittings is fine.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm full of questions. Sorry.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Do we source our own organizations, or do you supply the organizations?
Okay, so at the moment, we will ask our volunteers to source the organizations. That's one of the things, because we're really, really, really starting off on this particular program. Once we get the word out and people start coming on board, then we'll be handing out, we'll be doing that part of it. But at the beginning, and that's the thing, we just want, rely on our volunteers to go out and to go forth and multiply, right? To go out and see what they can get for us. Obviously, I'm just throwing this out since Tahseen's got lots of questions, so I can give lots of answers, is that if anybody knows anybody that wants to help but is not in the therapy business, right, to become a trainer, but they want to get involved in this program, and they might want to, you might know somebody that, wants to go out and get the organizations for you, or wants to do a bit of marketing with this, or graphic design, or anything they want to do, then you can bring them in and talk to me, and we can put them on this program, right? But they wouldn't be a trainer, but they would be auxiliary staff, and that would be fantastic. So we don't want to close anybody off, but the trainers would be in the therapy business, but any auxiliary volunteers, we want to make this a national program at the end of the day. And the idea is that, because nobody is doing anything, right? There's a massive amount of money being spent on what's called mental health first aiders, and they're going to make it compulsory in schools and compulsory in hospitals and everything. Now, anybody know what mental health first aider is basically, there's no first aid involved. It's all about identifying that somebody needs help and showing them, signposting them on where to get it. That's all it is. Okay.
I've done that course, and it was really good, but underwhelmed is kind of the word I would use.
I think you paid a lot of money for it.
Pardon?
And you paid a lot of money for it, probably.
Yeah, I paid £250 for a 2-day course. And the biggest thing that I took away from it was to be able to sit down, and when someone is talking about, or you think someone's feeling suicidal, of how to kind of broach that and to how to tackle it and talk about it. Honestly, that's the only thing I took away from that.
They also charge thousands of pounds for mental health first aid training, and basically, it's about learning the DSM, if you know what that is, or the ICD-10. It's just basically psychopathology and how to know if somebody looks like they're depressed or anything. But they don't actually intervene. So the difference between this is this is an intervention. It's not counselling in any way, but it's certainly an intervention where you can actually intervene in yourself. I mean, we're talking about self-interventions here, because nobody else is teaching coal-face, workers in the pandemic how to take care of themselves. No one's doing it. Nobody. Unless you pay for private counselling, and that's already a whole different matter. But I'm talking about emergency acute stuff. I'm in the work. Christine's got deaths all over the place. Heart starts pounding, sadness starts taking over, and I've got to finish the shift because I'm on a 12-hour night shift. How do I do that? Well, there's a couple of things that you can do, and one of them is what I've just taught you. And it makes a hell of a difference. Okay, and there's other stuff. Go for it. As many questions as you want. This is the time.
I don't know if you saw the news this morning. They were kind of doing this piece on the nurses and NHS staff, and there was one guy saying that it was off and he's gone on anxiety tablets, and another one saying that they can't take another wave. They can't. And there was a doctor, and he said the kind of hardest thing he's having to carry, and the thing he's going to remember most, is the people that he held the hand when they were being put onto a ventilator, and these people were saying, "Please don't let me die, please don't let me die." And it was the last face that they saw, and they never came back. And he said they're the ones that he's carrying.
Yep. Tassim?
Sorry, have I what was my question? Oh, is it adult organisations only that you want us to train, or would it involve like schools and places like that as well?
Okay, it can be teachers.
Teachers, yeah. Okay.
We're not talking about the pupils at the moment, so teachers.
Okay.
We have done a schools thing in the past. Very difficult to get into schools, but we did get into schools. But I'm a school governor myself, but we are doing this particular program for teachers. Okay. Thanks for that, Thomas. Yeah, one thing I wanted to say is we're in the middle of the crisis now, right? We're in the middle of the pandemic. But that's not the worst time, in my opinion. When you're working in the pandemic and you're in this business that we're in about caring for other people, you hold yourself as much as possible when you're giving. It's like being in a war. You hold yourself and you don't let go. You just make sure you keep going. When the crisis is over and everybody's going back to normal, that's at the moment it's 22nd of June. All government stuff gets released. Everybody goes back to normal. Hopefully the hospitals are not overwhelmed anymore. Everything's great. You're left with it. You're left with it. Everyone's gone back to work. Everyone's doing their thing. The pubs are open. The nightclubs are open. Everybody's thing. And you're left with the images that Thomas just spoke about. You're left with all that stuff. And what do you do with it all now? That is when the crisis, in my opinion, comes. Not now. Now you hold yourself no matter what, because you've got a job to do. But when everything goes back to normal and you take that deeper breath and you're like, it's over, that's when it comes to haunting you up here. And so if we can prevent at least something happening later on by doing this now, but also giving them skills when it's over and when they're sitting at home or going into the ward and everything's normal, but it's the same places they worked when they were in the middle of the pandemic. And so the spirit of things, the haunting thing still goes on, and you might find that people start having sorts of, things, sorts of a panic attacks and anxiety attacks and things when everything is normal, because that triggers off what happened last year, if you know what I mean. So the more that we can actually give them, the more skills that we can give people like that, the chances are we're going to lower the risk that they're going to get into any serious trouble later on. I don't have evidence to tell you that, but it just makes sense that if they have something to intervene with before they get into serious traumatic PTSD situations, then there's a chance that it will lower the risk of having something like that. Because one of the biggest things with trauma is that it's not the trauma that people really have the problem with. It's the frightening symptoms that happen afterwards that they think there's something wrong with them. And they're like, oh my goodness, I've got this, I can't sleep, or I've got funny tingling in my body, or I'm getting funny feelings in my tummy, or, I'm getting all shaky and nervous. And these exercises that we will teach in the protocol is to take care of all that stuff, to take care of all the funny thoughts that comes in, to take care of our emotional regulation, to take care of the funny body sensations that we have. And I'm talking about doing things that only take a few minutes. I'm not talking about sitting down all day, or going on a trip to the Himalayas and zenning out for 20 years. No, none of that. I'm talking about stuff that's acute intervention that you can do, just like I showed you in a minute and a half, or other things that you can do. And you put them all together and you give somebody a choice, and they can say, oh, I want to do this today, or I want to do that, or I'll just do both of them, or whatever. Then they've got something that they know what to do. When somebody feels that they know what they can do, and they understand a little bit of the psychoeducation that goes with it, which we'll also teach, then they're not so scared, right? Regarding CPD certificates, that's a bribe. That's just to get people in, right? And we will offer it for all our trainers. We'll offer it also for people you will teach, right? So if you teach them, we'll offer that, because we want to entice as many people to learn this stuff as we possibly can. And everybody needs these days CPD certificates. So we will supply them for that. And it gives them an incentive. And it's not like, because people like to, okay, so I'm going for the CPD. I'm not actually going because I don't want to go because they might think there's something wrong with me, but I'll go because I'm going to get a CPD certificate. It takes the stigma out of it a little bit. Heads Up, myself, but Heads Up as a charity, we have 3 trustees. One of them is a master in public health. She's a psychiatrist, an MD. She's got a PhD. So she's guiding us. She's a researcher. She works for different European Union funding places. So she's very, very involved. But we also have honorary advisors. Our honorary advisor, we have quite a list, but we have Professor Stephen Hayes, if you know who that is. He's the founder of Acceptance Commitment Therapy. I'm basically my specialist is in acceptance and behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy. We've got Dr. Louise Hayes, who's the originator of DNAV, which is psychotherapy for teenagers. Dr. Morshi Farhi, who's the originator of 6Cs. Now, another thing that we will offer, but it's not part of the protocol, but we'll offer it because this is what our original, nobody does anything like this in the country. So we will offer it to all our trainees also as an extra part of training if they want it, is to learn cognitive psychological first aid. So if somebody sees somebody who goes into psychological shock, they can get them out of it within 2 minutes. So that's from a car crash to a fire to a flood to any man-made or natural disaster where people go into psychological shock and they may go into hysterical behavior, or they might just collapse on the ground, and they become a danger to themselves and others because they can't evacuate themselves, or they start running around in the middle of the road. There's a protocol you can actually learn, which we're the only ones in the country teaching it. We used it in the Manchester bombing. We used it in the Grenfell Tower fire. We used it in the London terrorist attacks on London Bridge and Borough Market. And I will be teaching that as an extra course. They usually it costs about £120 a person for that course, but we will be giving it as an extra to our trainees that participate in this program as another extra, and that will come also with its own CPD certificate. Other questions, Tassin? Well, you haven't said anything for a while. What's going on?
Questioned out now.
Any questions in general? So the core elements of the protocol is, first of all, will be a little bit of psychoeducation to teach. You will be teaching, if you do this, the populations that you deal with, a little bit of understanding what's going on inside. We will teach you everything, of course, to understand the human mind under these kind of distressful situations, how we can use our body for immediate awareness and relief, vagal breathing, a little bit more depth with what you got a little bit of a taster for today. We'll be doing some bilateral stimulation, which is based in EMDR, if you know what EMDR is. We're not going to teach you EMDR, but we will be teaching you techniques that are based on bilateral stimulation, which comes from EMDR. We will be teaching also sensational awareness, which is about different grounding exercises that you can do within seconds and minutes. How to cope with difficult emotions, because that's what overwhelms people. Dealing with the troubling thoughts, the disturbing thoughts that come in. And identifying internal resources in our psyche, in our behavior. So all of us, and we might be doing some of that. We will be covering some of that in one of the next 3 sessions that we do. I'm going to be throwing out tidbits as we go along. You're welcome to come back for all 3 of them, or bring your friends. You now know, or colleagues. But I'll be kind of releasing little bits of stuff over the next 3 sessions, and one of them will be how to identify internal resources that we all have. We all have different ones, and once we know what they are, we can put them into action when we need them. We don't always know how to identify them, so we'll be doing some of that as well. So that's kind of all of our teachings, all of our protocols are evidence-based, and they all have. We've got a whole list of, which we'll give out. There's a whole list of sources, research papers, everything you'll need. Tassin.
So you're going to give all the material, or do we have to? We're not going to have to sit and write notes about all of this.
No, we're going to give everything.
Okay. And 3 sessions, is that enough to teach us all this?
Yeah, that will be your initial teaching. Look, I'm very, very flexible. Okay, so if we find as a group and they say, look, we want to do some more work in this or that, then I'll do that. I just don't want to frighten everybody off just now, because if I said, I want to do a 10-week course in this, they're going, oh, no, I'm not doing that, a 10-week course. But this could go in, I've been doing this for years, so I could hope a university course, a degree course in this. But this is what I want is for people to learn this as quickly as they can and get out there and start teaching. Once we start getting the people with this is an emergency situation, basically. So I don't want them to learn it for academic purposes. I want people to learn it for practical, get out there and get it out to people, right? Once that starts to tick over, and we start having a population that's being taught and coming into these meetings, and we start to build a community, a helpful, caring community, then we will we will offer tons of other stuff, right? So I just need the bare minimum just now to get you stuff and get out there and spread the stuff. So yeah, it's a good question, Tassin, but that's what we thought about. And we thought, where's the balance where we don't want to start, going in, but you won't need to, everything you'll need, you'll get.
You do know I ask a lot of questions, just so you're forewarned.
I love that. What? I really do.
I did some of the training before when kind of Manchester and that set off, and it sounds like a lot, but actually the way it's done and presented, it's really simplistic and easy to pick up. It's not an overload. Like Dov said, it gives you what you need to be practical with it. That was my feeling of the bits of training that I did, that it wasn't too much and it wasn't rhyme and verse. It was enough for you to do what you need to do. But my head run, when I started reading bits and that, my head was like, oh, I'm not going to know enough. But you do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thanks for that, Thomas.
Of it all, that's my concern. Will we be able to retain all this stuff in our heads?
Yeah, like I have the same questions. The way that I teach is just like Thomas says. I take something that's complex, but you get it in easy, spoon-fed stuff. It's practical. Most of the training will be doing and not listening. That's why you won't need to take too many notes, because it's very, very practical. All the way that I teach usually is experientially. So just because one of the things I study is learning, how humans learn. And there's all sorts of different ways that humans learn, but one of the most powerful ways that humans learn is experientially. And all you need to do is look at children for that, because that's how they learn. And that's why they do the same thing 100 times over and they become expert at it. And you just have to look at gamers and people that, young kids who take iPhones and smartphones, and in 5 minutes they know exactly what they're doing because they learn. They don't look at the instructions, they just do it experientially, and so they're not afraid to make mistakes and just do it again and again and again. And it's very, very, you get onto a bit of a different subject, but that's why when I see kids and they're teachers and schools and society complain that they're not very good learners, and they're not, and I'm like, well, are you sure they're not very good learners? Because they know how to do all this other stuff pretty good. So maybe it's not that they don't know how to learn. Maybe it's just the way that they're being taught. So that's that. So yeah, ask away. You'll have no problems whatsoever. No problems whatsoever learning this stuff. Right. So that's, I think, all for me tonight. What I do, and I'll ask you now, is what was the experience from tonight like? What do you think? I didn't ask you at the beginning what you expected, so you just got it. Was there something that you expected that you didn't get? Do you think before I give off this one in the fourth Thursday of next month, you want me to expand or add something? I will. So that's how I work. I'm very reactive to what people need. So I'm opening the floor. You're the pioneers.
Do we have access to your email? Can we email you if we have anything?
Yeah. Hold on a second. So I put stuff in the chat. Did you see that, first of all?
I saw some of it, yes.
Right, so I will now write my email in here.
Okay. I might just take a photo of it. It might be easier.
No, don't. Okay. Okay, that's the email. My name is Dov. Yeah, you can ask as much as you want. Anything that needs improving, anything that you expected that you didn't get, anything that you want more of?
No, I think it was really good.
Well, yeah, you thought, what was your general impressions of tonight?
I think it was really informative and not like long-winded informative, if that makes sense. It was
Yeah.
concise and informative.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Christine?
It's the first time I've done a Zoom experience. I've done some small, just online, where you just download it, and so this is my first experience. But I thought at first everybody looked quite educated and were more experienced than I was. But I feel like I said what I had to say, and I felt that I was involved. And I've quite enjoyed it.
Wonderful.
I will look forward to doing it Zooms again.
What?
Yeah.
Look at that! What an honor! First Zoom, brilliant. You know, fantastic. So I really appreciate that, and I thank you for sharing your honesty and your experiences. That was really contributing, and thank you for that. On the everybody really clever thing, I just want to tell you a little bit myself, because it's really important to me. I left school with no qualifications. Right, I now have multiple degrees, but I did that in my later life. I didn't have any. I had a few O grades, but no A levels or anything, and I didn't go to university until my late 30s and early 40s. So I don't count myself as an academic in any way whatsoever. And that's why one of the things that Thomas mentioned, I really, it's one of the things I do, is that I try to take material that is usually long-winded, just like Tassine said, long-winded and open and all that, and try and bring it down to, you know, you don't need too much nonsense. You just need to know what you need to do. Jo, how was your experience tonight?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I'm just writing a few things down. Great that it's just so practical as well. And like you say, I don't know of any other organisation that's doing this. And it just seems so obvious that it's what is needed, but it's not. Why are people not doing this already? I don't know, you know. So yeah, I suppose it's just a bit shocking, really, that even sort of mental health first aid, because I'm more aware of that. I've not done the course myself, but I know sort of through working in schools and things that mental health first aiders are sort of out there, and you know, family and friends talk about it at work and things, but what does that actually mean in a practical sense? Like you say, the signposting, but in the here and now, having something to do to help somebody is just, so important. And it just feels like a really supportive environment. Like tonight, it's felt really supportive, and I think it's good that it's a little group as well. Because perhaps if it had been bigger, I'd have felt a bit more, I'm not sure I want to share quite so much. And just for Christine to share what you shared as well is just unbelievable. And I think it's things like that as well that kind of make you realise, don't they, that people need this.
Oh, absolutely.
Can I just say that like moving on in a year, we haven't actually moved on. We've got empty rooms with residents missing that we had looked after for 3-4 years. We knew them. They were part of our family. We went in and knew how to look after them, how to talk to their family. Their families weren't allowed in. Doctors weren't allowed in. We had to go on training courses so that we had to verify death ourselves and deal with all that side of it. So the support I thought would be for me towards my carers who worked tirelessly for me. Very good. But looking at them rooms every night when you go in and know, you know what I mean? We start admitting, but we're only admitting people with COVID, and we're doing barrier nursing with them. So far, we've been lucky. They're coming out of it, and we, you know, because the beds were overfilled, so we had to barrier nurse and isolate them for 2 weeks in their rooms. And we have to sort of boil all their things, and quite a big thing going on in the nursing homes. And then we have to lateral test the staff before they can come in through the doors, anybody. So we've had to train them to do all the COVID testing, and we do that 3 times a week and have to download it on computers to the NHS. So the nursing homes are just as overwhelmed, more because of what has happened, and I don't think people have got over it yet. It still hurts.
Have you had any? Sorry, I was just going to ask Chris. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Have you had any mental health help for yourself, as in support for you and everyone that's gone through all this? Because it's so traumatic for you all.
Yeah, no, we haven't. In fact,
that's heartbreaking.
You know, that registering of deaths, that's just absolutely blown my mind.
We had to do a video, and the doctors weren't allowed in, and we notified the families they can't come in, and then we had to do the vital statistics and just do, you know what I mean, everything to we already know that when they've died, because when they die we usually notify an out of hours doctor at night, and then they come in just to certify. So basically we kind of know, but then to be given the full responsibility of it all, and the families can't come in, and then we have to ring the funeral directors to come in and take the person away. It's very quite intense.
Oh, it's tragic. And just as Tessina asked you, you're not getting any help whatsoever. So exactly what
Nothing. They put up on when we clock in, they put this itself Mental Health Awareness Week, download different, but it's nothing, you know, compared. So I myself have meetings. I mean, we have to do also like make sure that infection control and stuff like that, and like I said, do the lateral testing. So we have little group meetings with my carers at night, and we do the exercise what you do with the carers. We have the break and we get together and we do it, and we discuss and talk and try to help each other. We still have some that haven't returned to work yet, that can't handle it yet.
Christine, can I ask you, do you think after what you've told us and after what you've heard tonight, do you think this is a program that could help people like yourself and your staff?
Yeah, I think so. I've got to be honest, and I thought I would be hearing more about the mental side of it and the suicide. I saw it and I thought, oh, this will help me because with it same for carers and that. Obviously, I can't go out and start grouping people, but at least I can help the ones in who I work with.
Wonderful.
I know some paramedics, and again, you know, back in that first wave, they were kind of told to leave, you know, people that just leave them, you know, unless they're kind of, you know, they're on the last breaths, bring them in. Other than that, just leave them because you can't do anything. And that's kind of really weighed them down as well, that feeling of being helpless.
That the worst thing
we had to give like CD drugs to them. We had to give them morphine, midazolam, allopurinol. It affected them. They were thrashing about in their beds and they couldn't keep still. Their colour was changing, their circulation. It was unbearable to watch. It was like some of them were crawling on the floor. It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So we had to give them the injections every 4 hours just to calm them down so they could die peacefully in their beds.
When a carer feels helpless, and I'm talking about everybody in the caring, helping industry, whether you're a paramedic or whether you're a carer of your parents, it doesn't matter. When you feel helpless and can't actually do anything, that's the worst possible time for any carer because they just feel totally useless, and it's terrible. It's really terrible. I'm going to close it off tonight. I'm going to be forward again, and I apologize, but this is a charity and we're going to get it out. So I'm going to ask you if it's possible that you could write to me at that email address, or just return an email to the Eventbrite address with some sort of testimonial about tonight, just to say how you did it and how you enjoyed it or whatever, that would be wonderful, so we can use it to get the word out. The other thing is to spread the word. If anybody's interested in learning more, then you can invite them to this one next month. And if anybody's interested, you know, not just generally speaking, but you know, after you've spoken to them and they might be interested in becoming a trainer, then invite them to this one again next month. And let's see if we can grow and grow and grow. So after like 3 or 4 times, we can have at least some sort of body of people that we can start getting training going and get this project off the ground.
So it's on the Thursday each month. Will it just
the fourth Thursday of each month?
The 4th Thursday.
Yeah, I can't remember the actual dates, but it's the 4th Thursday.
I work nights, you know, for me to miss
easy
it.
to remember. Easy to remember. All right, so thank you, Joe. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Tassim. Thank you, Thomas. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll keep in touch. I look forward to it.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.